inundated with messages about focusing on the positive. It can lead us to think that there's something wrong with us if we have a negative emotion. It can seem like we can only be either positive or negative. The problem is that we can extend that into everything in our lives, including when it comes to loss. So we can see it as we can either be happy or grieving. We're all going to experience loss in our lives. We see loss often as the end to happiness. We view grief as a finite emotion that can exist only alone and not alongside happiness. But it doesn't have to be that way. We have to stop seeing life as either or and recognize the power of and. A few years ago, I was sitting on our couch working on my laptop. Actually, I was shopping, which always makes my husband oh so happy. And while I was doing this, I got a notice pop up letting me know I had a new email. And that email was of a look back at this day. So they were photo memories from a few years before. One of the photos was of me with my dog, but I didn't recognize myself. I looked so happy in the photo. I sat there staring and wondering what had happened to me. After staring at the photo for a while, I felt a sudden ache. I realized that that photo had been taken before I knew that I was never going to become what I had always wanted to be, a mom. The photo happened to pop up at a time when I was really struggling with being childless, not by choice. I was devastated. I felt such a sense of loss, shame, and less than. I had lost the happiness that was so obvious in that photo because I focused my life only on my loss. When this jolt of reality hit me, I realized I needed to change something to bring the old me and that happiness that I had into my current life. I felt a sense of urgency to do something to get over it. And that's because I didn't realize at that point that getting over it isn't possible. I knew since I was a child that I wanted to become a mom. There was never any doubt. I had every detail planned out. I knew I wanted children. I knew I wanted 4 children. I had the pregnancy, childhood, and life beyond all imagined. And over time, I also envisioned who would take care of me during my pregnancy. You see, I'm a physician and coach. My medical specialty is maternal-fetal medicine. So I'm an obstetrician who takes care of women with high-risk pregnancies. And with each step in my training, my med school, residency, fellowship, and with job changes, I would move to a new place. With each move, I would figure out which obstetrician I wanted to go to during my pregnancy. I would also figure out which nurses I wanted taking care of me and my baby during labor. And I had also picked out which anesthesiologist was going to be giving me my epidural. You see, I wanted children, but I could do without the pain of labor. But life didn't turn out that way. I had fertility issues. I had life circumstances that got in the way of my becoming a mom when I was single. I had a boss who would fire me for being single and pregnant, and I had a parent who would mourn me and treat me as if I had died for the same reason. Gotta love family guilt, right? I had a job where I was working over 100 hours a week, and I couldn't fit in a single doctor's appointment, much less the multiple ones I was going to need for fertility treatments. If I couldn't fit in a single doctor's appointment, how was I going to be able to take care of a child on my own? When I got married and once again wanted to have a child, I was faced with needing IVF and having a husband who already had 3 children of his own and didn't want any more. Once again, I was in a situation where motherhood just wasn't going to happen for me. With that came a deep, excruciating sadness. I so desperately wanted a child, and I couldn't see that happiness was ever going to be possible. Also, along came the woulda, coulda, shouldas. All of the things I would go over in my mind that I thought I should have done differently. So I went on a journey to grieve my loss and to understand that no one has the perfect life. Everyone has loss, and everyone has situations that they wish turned out differently. I thought once I grieved, that would be it, done and over with. But that's not what happened. The sadness remained, and it's still there. But I've come to learn that my sadness isn't the whole of my life. It is a part of me, but it's a single part that I carry with me along with happiness. I can honor my loss and also experience a happy life, even though it's different than the one I had dreamed of. So how does grief show up in society, and what's its impact? A recent study showed that 57% of Americans have lost someone close to them in the last 3 years and are grieving their loved ones. Now, that statistic is just for the loss of a loved one. While that undoubtedly is the most intense grief, we grieve for other things as well. Things like a job loss, retirement, divorce, moving from your house, the loss of a pet, and so many more things. It's impossible to ignore the effects of grief. The effects go beyond what someone is feeling. With grief comes an increased level of stress, and that in turn impacts relationships, which includes work. A study by the Grief Recovery Institute found that U.S. employers spend $75 billion annually as a result of these issues. The effects of grief impact every aspect of our lives. So it's understandable that we want to see grief as something to get over, get past, or move on from. But it doesn't work that way. We don't get over grief or loss. Loss lives on in us, in our souls, in the core of our being, including losses that others may not see as a loss or may not see as a significant one. Consider the possibility that instead of seeing your loss as the whole of your life, that it's only a single part of it. Loss doesn't have to define you, and you get to decide if it won't. Through your thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings. Now that's not a new idea. The first step in this is learning how to distinguish between your circumstances and your thoughts about your circumstances. In other words, we all have a choice. It can be hard to separate out our circumstances versus our thoughts about our circumstances. Generally, we think we're sad, mad, happy, or whatever we happen to be feeling because of our circumstances. But as Brooke Castillo teaches, circumstances are neutral. Our feelings don't result because of our circumstances. Our feelings result from our thoughts about our circumstances. I'll use childlessness as an example. There are women who don't want children and choose not to have them. They have positive feelings about being childless because their thoughts are things like, I want a life without children. Or, as my friend says about herself, my life is great without children. They have positive feelings as a result of those thoughts. On the other hand, women who are childless not by choice have thoughts like, I wish I had children. If only I had children. The feelings that result from those thoughts are things like sadness and anger. The circumstance is being childless. The feelings of happiness versus sadness are the result of our thoughts about being childless, not from the neutral circumstance of being childless. It takes time to understand and to really believe this. I guarantee you that any woman who is childless not by choice takes issue with this at first. Insert any other circumstance and it works the same way. But yes, it will take time to really believe that how you feel is the result of how you're thinking about a circumstance and not the circumstance itself. The second step is to feel your feelings. Grieve. Don't suppress your feelings. Carl Jung said, what you resist persists. Pain doesn't go away. When you try to resist it, pretend it's not there, or distract yourself from it, it's still there underneath. And it will come out in ways often that aren't in alignment with how you want to live your life. Things like eating foods that you know make you sick, gambling, becoming a shopaholic, becoming addicted to video games, all as a way to comfort this pain that you're not acknowledging, even though the comfort is only temporary. Next, recognize that what you have is a loss. Don't look to others for a definition, permission, or validation to see that what you're experiencing is a loss. It's not uncommon for women experiencing infertility and miscarriage to feel very alone. People often don't understand that those are losses. For some, it's difficult to move past the concrete view that a loss is of a human you can touch and feel. Add to that messages that then get internalized, messages saying, well, someone else has it worse. I experienced this myself with my own loss. I had decided that I didn't have the right to view it as a loss, but it was, and the pain didn't go away. It stayed and festered and got worse when I didn't acknowledge it. My answer to that was to shop, eat, and ignore happiness. So recognize your loss for what it is, a loss, and recognize that you can feel that, honor it, and experience happiness alongside it. This applies to more than just loss. There's a world of opportunity out there, opportunities to connect and to view life through different perspectives. Unless we expand our viewpoint beyond either or, we're going to miss out on all of the things that can bring us happiness. Thank you.